Hey everyone, I'm Kate Kennedy and I'm here with day 36 of 100 Days of Kane, PA. And today we're going to hear from Kristen and Boyd Lewis about their first date, the significance of the drive-in to them, and about why they have decided to live in Kane and raise their family there. So I'm going to go ahead and flip you around. We're going to come on over and say hello. Hi you guys.
Hey.
Hello. Hi,
How
Kate.
are you?
We're great.
Thank you so much for having us do this today. And why don't you start by telling everyone where we are?
We are in Detroit, Michigan.
Detroit, Michigan.
What are we doing here?
What are we doing?
Well, I drove here today to see my husband, Boyd, and his band, Heron,
Hi.
play. They're on a little Midwest tour. So this is the one date I get to go to.
So you drove from Kane
I drove from Kane today.
to Detroit. And
Yeah.
now you're sharing your stories,
Yeah.
your love story.
We're
about
sharing our
Kane.
story here on the street in Detroit.
Yeah, on the street.
Sporting your
Proudly
I Love
wearing
Kane.
I Love Kane. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about your first date.
Yeah. So
Okay.
our first date, I asked him out. Yeah.
Truth. That was true.
And do you remember I sent you a poster for an event?
Yes, it was Squash Fest.
Yeah,
I commented on the poster.
yeah,
It was good.
yeah.
Okay, so
My friend Tracy designed the poster.
It was a very large Sasquatch on the poster, year one. This was the first year of Squatch Fest, which is now an annual event at the Kane Family Drive-In. Yep. So I basically sent him a picture of a big hairy Sasquatch poster, and I said, "Do you
Shirtless.
want to go to this event?" Yeah, yeah. And he's like, "What is this?"
And I was
And I
like-
said, "It's an amazing outdoor event, live music." So he agreed to go.
I did.
Yep.
and well, you're not from Kane,
No, I'm actually from Warren area.
Warren area, but
Yeah.
you, Kristen,
I
born
am
and
from
raised.
Kane, born and raised. Yep.
And so you invited Boyd to this awesome festival, the Squatch Fest, year
Yeah.
one. So that was 2 years ago.
3 years ago.
3 years
So
ago.
the first annual Squatch Fest was our first date, and the second Squatch Fest was our rehearsal dinner
For your wedding.
for our
Yes.
wedding. We had a very small, low-key wedding in our backyard, but it was the next day. So, yeah, for the
Yeah.
first anniversary of our first date, we got married.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And then for this year's Squatch Fest, for the third Squatch Fest, Heron, Boyd's band, played at it. So we're just all about making history.
Yes.
Our family history at Squatch Fest.
I love
Yeah.
it.
But yeah, the festival in town was like, it's been a really cool thing that we've had like as a milestone every year.
Yeah, so every time
And-
Squatch Fest comes around, you know there's an anniversary around that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's actually really helpful.
Yeah, so it is our wedding anniversary. So whenever we won't forget it as long as the Watts family keeps having it every year.
On the same day.
Yeah, and then their
Please.
daughters have to take it over too and keep it going.
Yeah, so that's
The
what
generational business.
I was
Yeah,
gonna
Squatch
say.
Fest. It's got to go on for the next 40 years at least. Yeah. Yeah.
And you kind of already touched on something that I think is really cool about Kane, which is the generations that families keep businesses. So can you talk a little bit about what that means to you and share any stories that you might have?
Yeah, for sure. I would say Kane being like an intergenerational community is one of my favorite aspects of what a small town is and how a community, what makes it close knit. It's something you don't find everywhere. I mean, for me, I am fifth generation on one side of my family and fourth on the other, and so that makes my daughters sixth generation. And do a lot of like community development work, and Kane's, going through an amazing revitalization right now, and all of that work, all the community, people really coming together to make sure the next generation can stay in Kane, can live in Kane, can find a job in Kane. For me, I believe it can happen, and I really have high hopes that my grandchildren could grow up in Kane and stay in Kane, and they would be seventh generation. So that's a pretty remarkable thing. You don't find that in a lot of places.
Right, and like thinking about school and everything, like some of the teachers that you had or your parents had, your kids might even have.
Yeah.
And that's
Yep.
pretty special too.
Yeah, exactly. My kindergarten teacher, Joanne Wolf, one of my favorite teachers. I remembered her my whole life, my kindergarten teacher, and now we actually work together. So she's retired from the school district, but I work for the Pennsylvania Wild Center, and Joanne now works over at the Pennsylvania Wilds Conservation Shop at the Kinzua Bridge. So it's just such a cool connection.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
awesome.
Yep.
And then we were talking earlier too about something special that you did growing up when your daughter was little, kind of connecting the generation.
Yeah, when my oldest daughter Sadie was growing up, my grandmother Carol Zook lived in Kane, and we would try to go to dinner with her every night. Me, my daughter Sadie, my mom, and my grandmother every Wednesday. It was Wednesday night dinners, and we would go to a different local restaurant every Wednesday. And so, you know, if you do that once a week, you really get to know all the servers. And so we were just, you know, some of the servers would recognize us and say, oh, the 4 generations are here, you know. And so, yeah, 4 of us, four girls having dinner together, 4 generations. So.
Where are some of the places that you went?
DCO's was probably one of our favorite spots. I know a lot of people have really great memories of DCO's and their sauce and their dressing, and fortunately they still make batches of it that you can get. It's special order. DCO's, the Colonial, when it was out on Route 6, definitely Pepe's, a lot of Pepe's, Roma Gardens. You know, we would move it around, but Chinese, yep.
Got to enjoy all of the fare.
Yep, exactly.
And Boyd, you guys decided to move here. You
Yeah.
move here and raise your family here in Keene.
Right.
What are some of the things that you love about it? Why did you decide to do that?
Well, it was a interesting transition for me. Like, I went from living in Indianapolis years ago, and then I moved back to Warren. And one of the biggest things I always told myself was, like, I'm never moving to a big city again. Like, everything that you think is going to be convenient is actually not, because something 2 miles away still takes you a half hour to get there. And like all of the things that we like to do, and the convenience of being out in the country.
Yeah, yeah.
And feeling like we have a place where we feel like, you know, we're out there. I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
And it's a whole different thing. And moving to Kane was obviously the natural shift. Her family was all from there. Sadie's from there, and I've loved it.
Yeah.
Ever since
you joined the generation.
Yeah, I'm kind of
He's in it. Yeah.
kind of hooked.
So because of you, we've increased Kane's population.
Yeah, we've increased it by 2. So we stole someone from Warren County over to Kane, McKean County. Yeah. And our daughter Sloan. Yeah. So we're working on increasing the population.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, the cool thing that I've noticed, and even in the past week, like we played music out here, well, at the amphitheater in Kane the other night, and our friends came over from Detroit, and they came here, and they were just like, this town is such a cool place. Like, they're from Detroit, where everything is here, and you know, everything is available, and they were just like, you have this? You have that? Mm-hmm. And I was just talking to my friend Jake earlier, and he was even just like, where do you go to the gym? And I was like, oh, we have a 24-hour gym in Kane. And he's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
He's like,
Lobo Fitness, it's right down the
Yeah,
street.
I was just like-
yeah.
I was like, yep. He's
Yeah.
Jake.
Yeah.
And I think it's cool that the band from Detroit came to play at the amphitheater. Now you're here playing in their town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you get to go home to Kane.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, not,
Yeah.
I wish sooner than later.
Yeah. He's tired. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I loved hearing about Squash Fest,
Yep.
what that means to you guys every year, and about why you decided to live here. The intergenerational thing is huge. Is there anything else that you wanted to share about Kane in particular, about your experience, any stories, memories? Anything that you didn't
I
get to
guess
say?
just one last thing I would say is how much I've loved bringing people that aren't from Kane to visit over the years. You know, going to college out of the area, living out of the area. It was always something I was so proud to do, was bring people home to Kane. And the way the community, you know, connects with people, newcomers or people that move in or tourists or people that come and visit, like people feel that they're at home there. And so like next weekend even, I have really good friends of mine that I met in Baltimore, and they're immigrants to the United States from Indonesia. It's a couple and they have 2 children, and they come to Kane multiple times. And you know, next weekend they're coming and they're going to stay with us, and then they're going to go camp at Kaisuta in the Allegheny National Forest. And you know, Kane is the place that they say, yeah, like we would love to retire there or buy a camp there. And you know, so yeah, I think that's something I've always been really proud about, is sharing the special thing we have with people, you know, with people from out of the area.
And how people feel so welcome.
Yeah.
Like you said.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great thing.
Yeah.
All right, anything else before we wrap up?
It's gonna go play a show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good luck. We're
Live
Blake
from
or whatever.
Detroit.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, thanks for your
Thanks
time.
for
I
having us,
appreciate
Kane.
it. All right, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. It was so awesome to hear about the meaning of Squatch Fest to Kristen and Boyd. I love that tradition that they've had, that it has had the significance from their first date to their wedding date to playing in Squatch Fest this year. And just how special it is to have all the generations in one place, that they get to share time together and meals together and make memories together 4 generations in a row. That's a really special thing, and that's not just Kristen's family, but there's many families in Kane that do have that kind of tradition and that kind of connection throughout the year. So we love Kane. We're here representing today in Detroit, and just thank you again for tuning in, and we'll be back tomorrow with day 37 tomorrow. Thanks again.